Last week we started a series on being thankful and having a heart of gratitude. And, it's all these things that we battle. So this week I want to talk about the enemies of gratitude. Because it's hard to be thankful when there's certain things that come up. And if anything this season has created, it's created opportunities for us to be disgruntled. And the story comes out of Luke chapter 15, out of a very familiar verse to most of us who've been raised in church. If you haven't been raised in church, you want to go back and read the first part of the story, because I'm just going to paraphrase it. It's the story of the prodigal son. Our story begins with a father who had two sons. The youngest demands his inheritance, and the father respectfully and actively responds to it. And the father divides the property between the two brothers. And according to Old Testament law, you'll find that the younger son would receive 1/3 of the property. And Deuteronomy 21:17 is a reference point. The son would then leaves the father to go on his way, and he goes and spends his money on wild parties and does what he wants to in lavish living until all of a sudden the money runs out, and so do the friends. And when he finds out he has no friends left, he goes and looks for a job, and he finds a job. It would probably be the most disgraceful job that any Jewish boy could work at. It was working with an unclean pig farmer. And he was working in the pig pen until the point where he's looking at these pigs and he's seeing that these pigs are eating better than he is. And he thought, even the servants at my father's house eat better than this. And so he gets in and decides to take himself up. He says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go before my father. I'm going to fall on my face before him and just say, Father, I've sinned. I've wronged you. Please just let me be one of your servants. He's not even looking. He realizes he spent everything. He realizes everything's gone. And so he comes with the idea that he's just going to beg for forgiveness. And so he comes, he falls at his father's feet, and his father immediately picks him up and says, what are you doing? Hugs him, embraces him, puts the new sandals on his feet, gives him the signet ring, and says, we're going to throw a lavish, wild party on this son. And none of that matters for today. Because I want to talk to you about another character in the story. And if you're in Luke chapter 15, verse 25 through 28, it says this. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. And when he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. Your brother is back, he told him. And your father has killed the fatted calf, and we are celebrating because of his safe return. And the older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him to. Can you imagine, just for a moment, what it must have been like? Here he is, his brothers come home, he's been lost, they haven't heard from him, thought he could die, thought all this stuff could happen. He shows back up, and instead of rejoicing, immediately he becomes angry. And he gets angry, like, why are we celebrating him? What caused the elder brother to miss out on the joy, on this joyous occasion? Why was he so angry? And so I want to give you three things today, three enemies of gratitude. There's a lot more, but I just want to deal with three that come out of this story. And the very first thing is he had a grumbling spirit. It is hard for us to be thankful when we would have grumbled about everything. Do you know if you go looking for bad things, you'll find them? When I walk in, it doesn't matter whether I walk into my job, whether I walk into the church, whether I walk into my home, whether I walk into a restaurant. Listen, I can walk into a restaurant, and I can have two same frames of mind. I can walk in and think, man, look at this place. Look, this is a great family place, nice place, man, the service is great. Or I can walk in and say, man, look at all the dirty, grungy stuff, the grease on the floor. Oh, my goodness, my foot's sticking to the floor. I'm over-exaggerating, but I've been in that restaurant too. But I can look for the good or the bad. I can look at any business. I can look at any job. I can walk in, and I can look for the good or I can look for the bad. But if I've already made up my mind that I'm going to have a bad attitude and begin grumbling, I'm never going to be happy. Never. And so this elder brother walks in, and he is angry from the get-go. And I just wonder what would help us during this thankful time, this time we're supposed to be thankful for everything we're getting and receiving, if we didn't have a grumbling spirit. Tell you what COVID's done for a lot of people, it's made them bitter towards everything and everyone. It's a whole lot easier when the tensions are high and everybody's been isolated and everybody has to separate and nobody can talk, nobody can shake hands, nobody can hug necks without asking permission. Nobody can do anything. Nobody, you feel safe with a fist bump, but heaven forbid you shake hands, you know. I was joking this morning, but I said, forget no shave November. Let's have no mask November. You know what I'm saying? Let's just get normal. And I realize that's not reality. That's not going to happen today. I think wouldn't that be wonderful? Just get back to normal. Have some normalcy back in our life. But the truth is, we cover our face. We don't know whoever. I was at the store the other day. I wanted to wave at somebody, but I wasn't even really sure if it was them. I've decided that masks need to have names on the front or pictures of your face. This morning we got out of the car and Sandra looked and said, Sarah, is that you? And she goes, you can't tell the mask. She goes, well, you got sunglasses on too. You can't tell. We all look like a bunch of criminals running around. But it's hard to be happy and content when you constantly are having to cover up, hide away, and pull away. What would happen if we could connect again? What would happen if you could be thankful? See, you're about to be isolated with your family, and that can go one or two ways. It can be a wonderful time where you are grateful to spend time during a very difficult season, building one another up, encouraging one another, and lifting one another up. Or it can be one of the most sad, angry, emotional moments because everybody's bitter, everybody's angry. You can't talk about certain things because somebody's going to blow up. Someone's going to get mad. Who wants to go walk into the Thanksgiving feeling like they have to walk around like mind bombs, feeling like if I hit the wrong one, everything's going to blow up? But the minute I say those things, it resonates, and you feel it. You feel the tension from the moment. If I say the wrong thing, they're going to blow up. This person's going to be mad. This person's going to be aggravated. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about Facebook. Don't talk about anything else. Just walk in, smile, eat, and be happy. Nobody argues during the meal because everybody's got their mouth full. So serve early and often. Remember when you griped about football games, and that's what you could gripe about. Who was playing that day? It's that grumbling attitude. It's that ungrateful attitude. And as I watch through these things, I look at this idea of complaining. One of the biggest problems we have about is complaining and grumbling. See, here's what when Paul, you get into the story of Paul. We talked a little bit about Paul last week in Philippians. Paul had the ability to work through being stoned, being beaten, being left for dead. He walked through all these things. And so Paul could praise in prison while we pout in prosperity. We can have the most, and we live in the best country in the world. We are more prosperous. We have the ability to obtain wealth, and we can still gripe and complain that everything's not what I want it to be. We walk in, and it's never good enough. We are in a generation, in a season of life that nothing is ever good enough. No matter what you do, no matter what you achieve, no matter how hard you work, somebody's going to find fault. Man, it's tough. I was watching Gary Brooks this past week, and he was talking about some of the hardships of teachers and how it's just so hard when you got kids struggling and they're on Zoom calls and half of them are in attendance and half of them not. And they're talking about going all Zoom again. And this teacher was just having a meltdown because of all the difficulties and trying to do the best, and yet it was never going to reach the level of ability that she wanted to help the students with because it was constantly being restricted more and more back. You look at people on their jobs, people are hurting. People have lost the ability just to be friendly to one another. Paul glorified in his infirmities, and we grumble in our health. Never have believers had so much and appreciated so little than right now. Let me say that again. It's not blue, so it's not up there, so they don't put that in there, but I think I should have put it in. Never have believers, Christians, had so much and appreciated so little. Here's this elder brother. This elder brother has it all. He still has his retirement plan. He has his his 401k, whatever it is. He's got his insurance plan. He's got everything. He's still got a good job. He's still eating every night. He's getting dessert. He's got a full belly. He's being able to put his hands to something. He's being successful. He's going to inherit everything once his dad's gone. He gets it all. Everything left. In fact, everything from that point on was going to be his, and he's still not happy. How dare you throw a party for them. We get mad when other people are celebrated because we've been working so hard. Nobody celebrates me. Walking in the blessing, walking in so much, and still aggravated and hurting. And what is it going to take for us to turn it around? We grumble about our family when some people just wish they had their family still with them. Let me say that again. Some of us grumble about our family, and other people just wish that they could spend one more day with their family. We grumble about the government, and yet our government, in all of its flaws, is still better than many things we see around the world today. We grumble about the weather. If it rains, it rains too much. If it's sunny, it's too hot. If it's cold, it's too cold. And we're never happy. In fact, we got 4 seasons, and whatever season we're in is the wrong season. You know? Heard a story the other day. Just make sure you're still paying attention. These 2 Texans were sent to hell. Don't shake your head yet. They didn't make it, and the devil saw them just having an easy time. He says, "Oh, you're having it." He says, "We're from Texas." He said, "Okay." So he goes and cranks the furnace as hot as it'll get, and the furnace just is boiling hot. And he comes down there, and they're barbecuing. And he goes, "What are you guys doing?" And he says, "Well, it's such a great weather here. We just thought it was a great day for a barbecue." So they're barbecuing. He says, "Oh." So he goes back and he turns the air conditioning way low, below freezing. I mean, it's like 30, 40 below freezing. And he comes back down to hell, and they are slapping hands, partying, whipping. They're so excited about what's going on. And he goes, "What is wrong with you guys?" He said, "Hell froze over. The Cowboys must have won another Super Bowl." Learning to be content in all things. It's like that. It's that moment where can we just learn to be happy? We come to church for spiritual help and spiritual guidance, and yet we can find things that we don't like about church. It's too long. It's too short. They sing too many songs. We repeat the song over and over. We don't sing the right kind of songs. We don't sing the songs I like. They always sing new songs I don't know. It's too dark. It's too bright. It's too hot. It's too cold. I don't like the leadership. We can go on and on. You know what I've learned? Hurting people hurt people. When we're hurting, and right now, not just in the United States, but around the world, people are hurting. And so it's easy to be bitter. It's easy to lash out. It's easy to gripe about people because we're hurting. And hurting people hurt people. We're like a wounded dog. You're trying to help it, but he's in so much pain. Everybody's his enemy. Verse 29, he goes on and he says, "But," he replied, "all these years I have slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do." That's what the elder brother is saying. "And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friend." Here's the second enemy of gratitude, a spirit of offense. I'm offended by everything. Everything offends me. Now listen, this is where some of you need to pick up your toes here because I'm not aiming for them, but you may get them. Everything. You get on Facebook, you're offended. You get on Instagram, you're offended. You go to the mall, you're offended. Well, the mall, Walmart. You go to work, you're offended. Every new policy is affecting you and nobody else. And every little thing happening affects you. And you don't like what somebody else says. And you don't like that somebody else could say it. And everything is just such an offense. Everybody else is getting a better deal than us. Everybody else has it better. And everybody else is griping. And you're just offended. There's this attitude that we can just walk around and act offended about every little thing. Why are we so easily as believers offended? Everywhere in Scripture. Remember, this thing's the God book for a living. And if the Bible's our God book for a living, I just want to remind you of a few things. These guys in here were stoned. These guys in here were beaten. These guys were boiled in oil. They were hung on crosses, hung upside down on crosses. They were filleted alive. And yet they all saw it as a benefit for the glory of God. They didn't go around saying, can you believe what that Roman said? He hurt my feelings. They didn't go around saying, did you hear what that Pharisee, that church person said? I didn't like what they had to say. I'm not ever going back to that church. They didn't go around being offended. What they did is saw everything as an opportunity to share the gospel and as to show themselves as a witness about how Christ would act towards anyone, no matter how they acted towards them. We've lost the ability to make our enemy our friend. We've lost the ability to love our enemy. But yet that's what Christ asks us to do. We've lost the ability to go in and say, listen, though you've said a lot of things about me that weren't true, and though you've talked bad about me, I'm going to love you unconditionally. I'm going to be appreciative of you, and I'm going to serve you. And anything you need, I'm still going to help you with. We've lost the ability to act as Christ acts. Because why? We have a spirit of offense. I'm offended. We used to say this growing up, go to Walmart, get a ladder, and get over it. We don't want to get over it, do we? We want to hold on to it. I want to be mad because I have a right to be mad. And I want to be angry because I have a right to be angry. And I don't want to let go. And I don't want to do right. I don't want to resolve conflict biblically and go talk to someone and make it right. I want to hold on to it. And I want to be mad. And I want to be angry. And I want to lash out. Because I'm offended. Here's what an offended spirit did to him. It made him grumble when it was time to glory. We're getting to a season where we're getting the best. We're fixing to see a season change. And I realize they're talking about things going on in January, February. I'm not worried about that. We forgot a few weeks ago we talked about don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has its own rewards. I'm not worried about what the president might do or not do tomorrow. I'm worried about what's going to happen today. And I'm worried about how I respond today. I'm worried about how I treat people today. I'm worried about how I act towards you today. Tomorrow's got its own problems. And when they become problems, I will deal with them accordingly. But I'm not going to sit back and stress out every moment of the day about the things that might, could, or should, or can, or maybe never happen. In fact, the spirit of offense made the elder brother exaggerate his own righteousness. Look at all the stuff I've done. Look how well I've served you. I've done so much. It made him feel sorry for himself, and it made him forget that the father had another son. He didn't care. All he cared is about how this affects him. Mark 11, verse 25 says this, but when you're praying, this is what he tells them. He says, first forgive anyone you're holding a grudge against so that your heavenly Father will be able to forgive your sins too. If you've been offended by somebody, the very first thing you need to do is go pray about it. And then go ask them to go to that person, ask them to forgive you, and then come back. Because you'll know when you start to pray, it feels like you're hitting the wall. Why? Because you've got a spirit of offense. You've got to go make it right. Hey, listen, I said something, or you said something to offend me. I want to make it right. I don't want to have that against you. And then it says, go back and my Heavenly Father, forgive me. How can He forgive me if I don't first go out and try to make things right? If you have a spirit of offense, you need to make it right. Luke chapter 15, verse 30 through 32. Man, I'm doing good. I'm on time today. Woo! All right. Yet when this son of yours comes back, squandering all of the money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fatted calf. He's done wrong, and you're celebrating this. His father said to him, look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he's found. Here's the third thing that I believe. It's a compassionless heart. We have no compassion. Why did the prodigal brother, why was he so unmoved by his brother's return? Because he was unmoved by when he left. We don't care whether people come in our life or leave our life. We have no compassion. No compassion. All I care about is if it affects me. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. I've lacked compassion. I pray that's not true with our church because we desperately need you to have compassion. We need you to have compassion not on us in this room only, but those that are going to be below freezing several times throughout this winter season, and that we're trying to facilitate one night amongst other churches so that people don't have to sit in the cold, but they can be warm, they can have a warm meal and be fed, and we're trying to take care of them. So we need you to have compassion on the least of us, the last of us, and the lost. We need you to have compassion upon kids who aren't going to have a Christmas unless we step in and intervene. And I got to tell you, so many people always get this, well, how do we know they're really in need? You know what? They've been vetted by the school who knows them best and their families best, and they've been put in social programs that helps them identify that. But here's the deal. If I'm giving unto the Lord. What do I care? Why do I care? In fact, if I get into all that, I don't have the right attitude and the right heart anyway. So we need people to step up with great compassion. And in this season, more than ever before, we need believers who are stepping up that have compassion and love and caring hearts one for another. What's going to bring this world back to Jesus is when we act different than the rest of the world. When we don't walk around grumbling about every little thing that goes on. When we don't walk around being offended by every little post and every little trademark and everything that might or might not happen, and when we begin not to be compassionless, but we are full of compassion. You see, in this idea, he had to work hard on the family farm, and he was disgruntled, and he had no compassion for anyone else who didn't have to do what he had to do. He didn't care about his missing brother, but let me tell you something, the Father does. And the question is, do we care about what the Father cares about? Do we care about those who have messed up? Do we care about prodigals? Do we care about those, and do we celebrate people who have messed up and coming back home, and do we love them and embrace them, and do we take everything we can? You see, the problem in here is that we're not a church full of prodigals. We're a church full of elder brothers sometimes. Not everybody. We get the wrong attitude. We grumble, complain, and it's hard to be thankful for everything that God's blessed us with because all we see is how someone else is getting something or we're missing out on what we deserve. You are so blessed. You are so blessed. If you have a roof over your head, you are blessed. In fact, if you have a roof over your car, you don't know how rich you are compared to other people in the world. The idea that you have a house for your car is absolutely ridiculous in other parts of the world. If you're going to go home and be able to eat this evening, if after here you're already thinking about what am I going to eat when I leave here, you're blessed. If you're able to come in here and enjoy in a heated and air-conditioned building and worship God with freedom, with nobody persecuting you and looking outside the door waiting for you to walk out and taking down your name so they can keep you on a government list, you are blessed. You are blessed. How can I grumble and complain and be so offended when I am so blessed? If you have your family still alive and with you, look around the room, you're very blessed because some people don't. You're so blessed. What I want us to do as we get ready to leave this place, I just want to say, God, help me to acknowledge the things that are good in my life and help me not to grumble. Help me not to be offended so easily and help me to have compassion on those who need compassion. I'm going to ask everybody to stand, and it's real simple. They're going to worship. I just want you to pray. I want you to pray for yourself, for your family. For once, I don't want you to have anybody else in mind. I want you to have yourself. God, how can I be thankful for all you've blessed me with? Next week, we're going to talk about how to survive Thanksgiving. You're going to make it. But it starts here. It starts with being content like we talked about last week. And this week, it talks about learning what the enemies of being content and happy and thankful are. And the next week, we're going to talk about how to put it into practice. But you have to have your mind set on the right things. Listen, we change by what? The renewing of our mind, which means you have to change the way you think. It starts in the mind. Your biggest battle is in your mind. So change the way you think today. I want to ask you to spend some time in prayer. Cody will dismiss you shortly. Right now, let's just give it to God. Say, God, help me to be the man, the woman that you want me to be.